Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Your Ultimate Life, the podcast that's just for you to help you create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy that you create by serving with your gifts, your talents, and your life experience. I'm grateful today to have a special guest, Ann Pells. Ann, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're certainly welcome. It's been we just visited for a few minutes before we started, and it's really interesting. I'm going to ask a question, and I don't want you to be modest. I'd like you to just share with me. How does Ann choose to add good to the world?
My favorite ways to add good to the world are teaching and inspiring other people to get out of the I can't mindset into the how can I? How can I have those great relationships? How can I have the money that we've always wanted? How can I have the health I've always wanted? Specifically, we teach people a lot about their finances in a couple of different ways. 2 phone calls that I would like people to have an opportunity to give themselves a permission slip for, that just teach them how to get that house paid off in 5 to 7 years instead of 30. If they want to do that, pay a lot less interest, hundreds of thousands of dollars there, without changing their budget. Because, none of us want to be on starvation budget necessarily. We just want the house to be working for us. And also to teach people how to have businesses that are run by a management team, so they don't have to change their lifestyle, but they can have some income coming in. There's also real estate and other things like that. But a lot of our information is right at annsplan.com. And that's meaningful to me because, like, when our kids were little, the beginning of all of this, if I have a second to share that with you, is my husband got laid off and we had 3 little kids and he was our only income at the time. And I went, and I didn't handle it well. It just was not ultimate life at all for us.
So what happened? You had 3 little kids, and what happened?
And he got laid off. His job went away completely out of his control. And that's happening for a lot of families now. And we just did not have any, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I thought, my go to school, get a good job plan just blew up. And what do we do now? I remember thinking at the time, I just felt overwhelmed, and I want to help people avoid that, to be kind of in the hope. Let's have some hope. Let's figure out, let's ask questions and talk to people like we've been able to do over the last 20 years since that happened. Because it's important to me that young families and older families, and that we don't ever get to that place where I was like, oh gosh, I don't even know what to do now. It was very frightening.
Yeah, I'm sure. Terrible things happen, and then it just completely derails us. So, like, you're in a place right now of offering help, ideas, guidance, suggestions for people to do that. But you don't get to that place accidentally. I like to say you don't fall up that mountain. So,
right.
So what? Tell me a little bit more. I want to know the story. So your husband was laid off.
Yes.
And if the job went away completely,
right, then
it wasn't like he's going to wait a month or 2 and find another job, not like that. So that didn't seem like was an option. So what, I guess there's a couple of aspects to the question, what did you do? There's the aspect of what did you actually do? And the other is, how did you manage it? Energetically, emotionally, internally, how did you manage that struggle that started out so overwhelmingly?
Right. At first, not really well emotionally and energetically. We were just in the shock and overwhelm that you are when you have a health accident, a car accident, or a health emergency, or anything really, I think. And we decided to buy time and go back to graduate school. Let's go back to school, buy some time, we'll figure things out. And in the meantime, I'm racking my brain, usually not sleeping at night because we're not handling. I'm like, and I'm thinking, all right, who do I know that is already navigating this okay. And I thought about my grandparents, who had had a health change right when their kids were entering college, and grandpa had been self-employed as a business owner, but along the way he'd been building some real estate, just buying a house or two here and there as they could. My mom grew up with all of those people right there on the land that they owned, and that real estate income allowed him to change his job, his business income, and pivot. As you mentioned, in other industries that are happening, people are having to pivot because of AI and all the things that are happening now for us.
Right.
And I had seen grandpa do that, and I thought, all right, he had some real estate happening. How can we learn about real estate so that we're more prepared in case the job loss ever happens again, or another big bomb that we didn't expect in our financial life? So our immediate plan was, let's go back to school for a little bit. Let's figure out real estate. We read everything we could. Back in that time period, there wasn't a lot online, so it wasn't like watching YouTube to learn about it, or the things we would do now.
Was there even an
it
online?
And so I'm reading the Rich Dad Poor Dad books, and I'm thinking, how can we save up that down payment, or how do we even get started, right?
Right.
I think it just fed a hunger for us, and we had another reset in the real estate world during 2008. That we were over leveraged on properties and we didn't know what we didn't know then either. And I think that's all of us get that really expensive lesson in life. What we don't know about what we don't know costs a lot of time and money, and a learning curve for us. And that's what I found out the hard way then, with a little bit older children. And then a couple of years later, we found what we have now. How do we get people's mortgages paid off in 5 years? And how do we not have to have a starvation budget to do that? And then how do we take advantage of all the 70-somethings that are the baby boomers that are retiring now, and they still want their businesses, of course, to keep doing good in the world, to keep making a difference for people. And I found a team that helps us to find those and get them funded, and then create that income for families. And for me, that really feels good because of all the bumps and bruises that we've had, right? If I can smooth out someone's road that's coming behind me, our kids or other people that are younger than us, or that just didn't know what they didn't know either. They're my age and older, and they're like, okay, we got to figure out retirement. We got to figure out, I don't know, what are we going to do? Those are some of the tools that we try to offer people.
So when you first did that, you went back to school, what was the income? Did you get student loans or something?
Yes.
So you got some student loans to get started. Right. Okay.
Kind of smooth out the runway for a little bit until we could figure out how to find work again. For us at the time, it was right after the 2001 Trade Center fell down. And so my husband, in the tech world where he'd been working, jobs were not happening there for a good minute.
Well, that was the .com explosion where it all, everybody in the world was going to make $1 million online, and they did for 15 minutes, and then it all went away.
Exactly. So that was us. We were caught in the middle of that bomb and went, we need to figure out a new plan.
Right. And I remember the 2008 really clearly. I actually bought a house after the drop, so it wasn't. Yeah. It didn't ever gain much value. I kept it for 8 years and still didn't get much appreciation because it wasn't fast enough, and I needed to move again. But so I understand that, and I remember the 2008. Everybody, I'd go to church. Everybody was out of work, and every week there was the conversation about who knows, possible employment, and all the jobs are changing, and nothing's coming back the same. So it's easy to talk about it in the rear view now, but at the time it was
another scary time for
it
family.
Was terrifying. Right? So tell me a little bit about what you do now, the methods and tools that you use to help people pay their mortgages off more quickly, or start with that. What is that?
That is a video that we show people right on annsplan.com. Nothing about me specifically. It was just easy for people to remember to say that. annsplan.com/Kellan. Then people that are listening can go there. It's a 20-minute video, a little bit long, but I feel like 20 minutes is worth my time to cut 20 years off my mortgage.
20 minutes is, yeah, I know. Everybody's
Okay.
attention span is 3 seconds you have to get their attention now.
You're right.
So 20 minutes seems
then
long,
I'm like,
but it's
well,
not.
okay, how much interest do I have to pay even on a 2 or 3% interest rate if I have to pay it for 30 years versus just learning how to get it done in 5? And I thought that was one of the biggest financial miracles of my life because we only found out about that plan 5 years ago, even for our family. And I'd already moved 15 times, job changes, bunch of things after 2008 and all those things. And every time you move, you start over on the dang mortgage and the interest, you have to start again to pay a bunch of interest and a little teeny bit of principal every month, right? Every time you start the mortgage over, for whatever reason. And in the meantime, they don't feel sorry for you if you lose a job or you have a health emergency or anything. The mortgage company doesn't say, oh, sorry, you don't have to make a house payment now.
No.
And that drove me crazy because I'm still not feeling very safe. As in, okay, we just watched the job get lost in 2001, the housing thing in 2008, and then we go into 2020 with COVID and, as you said, the lockdown and all the changes that happen. And I thought, oh my word, we've got to figure out a way to make it safer and faster for people to have a good, safe runway financially and that's what that video on annsplan.com did for our family. Within a couple of years, like they showed us literally on a calculator on a phone call we had with them after I watched that. So we offer that free calculator, free classes, and the ebook to kind of explain to people how it works. Because even if they don't choose to move forward on it, I still want them to have the information in case at some point in the future it makes sense and you're like, oh, that's what we want to do.
So one of the things you mentioned is helping people who maybe have a business to get somebody else to run it so it keeps going and they're not tied to it. Is that related? Is that related to the annsplan.com or is that just something separate?
You can find out about it at annsplan.com. So if you find out about the house and don't necessarily want that, but you want to keep finding out about how to buy a business or run a current business without a lot of hands-on involvement, like you said, then that's an easy way to find out more about that would be just to email me, Ann@lifegiverlegacy.com, and I can send you the links that you can talk to that team too.
Good, because I want people to know where to find out more. Life Giver Legacy. So I have a question that isn't about that now. So you manage this yourself. We all have challenges that hit us over the head. Yeah. And when they do, they either ruin us or they refine us. Right. And sometimes they ruin us for a day, a week, or a decade. And then eventually, if we're smart, we let them refine us. And after we are okay, what I notice is that, well, I'm just going to ask you, okay, you figured it out for you. So what is it? Why do you care about helping other people? Like, what is it in Ann that says, okay, I've crossed this minefield. Now I want to help other people. Why is that? What's going on in you that makes you want to help other people?
I think I just relate to the desperation that I felt during a couple of the bombshells that we've talked about. And I want to prevent that for my children. But then, hey, if we're helping my children and, why can't we also help other families? I feel like in my own life, and as I've watched other people in that lockdown period, for example, I saw a lot of really awesome people get scared and then they get mad, then they do dumb things. And they're not dumb people, but they just are kind of in this panic mode, and you make dumb choices that you wouldn't ordinarily make because you've run out of options. And I felt like if I could at least share a little bit of our journey, and as you said, going from to this is going to refine us and make things better because of what we've gone through, then maybe people don't have to take the 10 or 15 years that took us. that journey on in my own life. Someone during our 2008 crazy housing thing, someone said, well, you can still keep moving forward, get some partners, get people to help you. And I literally told them, I can't think of a single person that I could ask to partner with me or help me with this. We are in such a mess during that 2008 thing with our real estate. And I lost 10 years until I could circle back around in my head, in my mindset, as you said, and be, okay, that did happen, but now what are we going to do? Now what? Right? And I wish that I had been able to shortcut that 10 years by being willing to say, instead of, oh, I can't find partners, I can't do it, I can't do it. I wish I'd have been able to say what my grandpa tried to teach me when I was 15. He said, Ann, can't's not even in my dictionary. Instead of saying I can't do something or I can't have something, I say, how can I have it? And I didn't even remember that during my own of 10 years of, I don't know what we're going to do now, right?
You know what's interesting? I notice that almost to that exception, me, you, when people go through those kinds of things and they get on the other side, there arises in us the desire to help others. And I ask you that question because I always ask it, and it's always the same thing. And I think it's just part of our nature. Like we're built to love and serve each other. And when we figure something out, we just want to. We want to be of service and to help others figure things out. And it's universal, like every single time. And I've interviewed lots of folks over the years that have their own struggle, and it doesn't matter what kind. When they get to the other side, they're like, I can save somebody the trouble, and so I'm going to do that. And so there's, you're another example of that. So tell me what's happened now with your kids. Like you didn't remember what your grandpa said.
I know, right?
Right? You didn't remember that you can't doesn't have to be the operative word of life. And, the question is, how can I start? What's the first step? Who can I talk to? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about how the choices that you're now making, the legacy that you're creating, have passed on to your kids or others. What are they doing?
Our kids are just faster and smarter than we are. And that's what I hope for anyone behind me or anyone that hears any of your podcasts or this one too, right? We want everyone who comes along behind us to be faster and smarter, that they don't have to take 10 years going, I don't know. And instead they could say, okay, how could I have partners? How could I have help? How can I find that team of people that's already getting the results that I want? So our kids, different ways, they're accessing the team that helps them to pay their house off faster. They're learning about businesses. They're finding ways to buy their first piece of real estate as an investment. And it varies with our children. Some of them are more interested in it than others. And so, we are just kind of trying to customize the little 30 seconds, 2 minutes at a time that you can teach people around you, your kids or other people, or, how about if you read this book, or what do you think about this video that I saw, or things like that. There's so much available now online, even, that we didn't have 20 years ago when their dad and I were like, we don't know what to do, right?
No, there's
so much available now that it's almost more the opposite extreme. Like, how do we sort out where to put our attention for a few minutes, and how do I have that phone call, and how do I contact that person? How do I even know what questions to ask someone if I'm trying to buy my first piece of real estate or my first business, or, how do I know what to do?
Something you mentioned at the beginning that struck me at the time, and we've done a specific application in terms of, either real estate investing or paying off your house or owning a business. But you mentioned this mindset thing from I can't do this to maybe I can, or what's the first step. And that applies to a lot of areas. In fact, it applies to everything, because we get stuck Um, almost, I mean, there's no limit to the ways we can get ourselves stuck.
Right.
When you talk to people about, that idea, and you come into someone, someone comes to you that is really sort of set in the idea that, yeah, that might work for you or for somebody somewhere, but not for me. I can't this, that, and the other. What is the first kind of thing that you approach with them to at least help them see a glimmer of possibility?
I love that word, glimmer, glimmer of possibility. I think everything starts with good questions. And so I'll usually try to say to them, well, what if the thing that you think you can't, someone's already done it? What if money doesn't have to be hard? What if question is my other question. Why can't it be that way for you? If someone's already doing it, why can't it be that way for you? Or what if it was? And sometimes they throw that right back at you. Well, I can't. And they're just not ready, but they'll usually circle back around. For me, it took 10 years to be like, oh, I could find partners. If we can be faster than Ann and not wait 10 years, that's awesome, right?
Yeah. When you say partners, are you speaking specifically about the real estate investing and so forth? Or are you talking about partners in a broader sense?
Yeah, partners to buy that first piece of real estate, or partners to buy that first business, or partners to take a class that you've been wanting to learn something, but you may not have the cost of entrance or something, right? Like, why do we insist on thinking we have to do life all by ourselves? As you said, there are a lot of people that know how to help and they want to help. And if they can, what if they just needed to give you a little bit of time to watch your kids for you so you can go and do the thing, or they just needed to give the cost of a pizza. In some parts of the world, $20, the cost of a pizza is a year of education for a child. And, I think sometimes we overcomplicate things. At least I did for those 10 years of, I don't even know any partners. I don't know what to do. And I could have just asked myself some questions instead. How can I, and what if I could find even just one partner, or how can I find somebody?
Yeah. So I have a question. You're right. We have this myth, and it is a myth, but it's pervasive and it's powerful, that we have to do things ourselves, and that the idea that, asking for help or getting in a position where we're seeking guidance or help is not okay, that it's somehow an indictment of our character or our lives or something. So my question, Ann, is why have we built that? I know it's speculation, but why do you think we have created ourselves a world that is so full of can't, won't, not, isolation, that sort of feeling? What's going on that we've built that?
I don't know. When I look back at my own life, I guess I just was so determined that I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I don't need anybody else to help me. And when I finally gave that up, it actually was kicking and screaming on the way to yet another real estate class that we were invited to. And I'm like, oh, I don't need anybody else to tell me how to do real estate. That won't work for me. And I'm having a really bad attitude about it. And then when I got there, I realized it was more about mindset. It was how to get out of the I can't do it to how can I find someone to help me to do it, whatever it is, right? And it doesn't have to be about real estate. It can be.
So I'd like you to teach for a moment. So since we've talked in generalities about finding partners or helpers or, even small first steps, in your experience helping people, can you give, and I know you can give many, but give 2 or 3 or 4 even examples in different areas of, quote, what does finding a partner mean? Like if you want to go to school, or if you want to learn about, like, what does it mean to find a partner? If someone's stuck in the idea that they don't want to ask for help, or they can't find him anyway, both of which you said about yourself, what does it mean actually in practical terms to go find a partner? Help.
Yeah. Well, for me right now, I call it the 10-minute magic, because honestly, it's Is there a book I could read? That's a 10-minute thing. We could listen to a book for 10 minutes. We can go get a loan, possibly. There's business loans, there's real estate loans. We can learn from somebody. We can get a mentor. There's so many ways to get partners, as in just like, and really in an interesting sort of a way, my grandparents, I asked them after all was said and done with all of their real estate and their investings and everything, how did you do that? And I thought they'd give me this huge book and a long, do this and all the steps, 100 steps worth of anything. And they just said, we just chose to let God be our partner. Whoever God is to that person, they said we tried to tap into him and ask him questions. What are we supposed to do next? And instead of saying to myself in 2008, well, I don't have any partners. What if I would have tapped into that and just asked, who could be my partner, or who knows more about real estate than I obviously do? Who knows more about businesses than I do right now? Like we said, there's so much on the internet now. I mean, really, just and AI and all kinds of resources that we have.
The AI, I mean, the internet obviously democratized information. Think about it. It used to be really hard to find something out. And then we invented libraries. And then you could go to a library and find stuff. And then we invented the internet, which brought libraries right in your face. So everything that there ever was is right here. And now with AI, we've democratized expertise, which is we can sort and analyze and bring all that stuff right, customized to your own needs. And you mentioned something about heavenly sources or spiritual sources, and I talk a lot about that in different ways, and I'm not trying to prescribe anybody's religious orientation, but what everybody knows, especially in times of urgency,
right,
is that there is something more than us.
Right.
There is something above, bigger than, whether you're an addict in a 12-step program, or whether you're a new parent trying to figure out what the frick to do with a kid that's seems
crying
like they're
for
busted.
5 hours.
Busted somehow, or even, I had a lady that I interviewed, and her and her husband were model people in a regular marriage and good stuff, and both their sons ended up with terrifying addiction problems in like hospital and near death and all that stuff for no apparent reason. And so what do we do? And I love the fact that you mentioned that, because each of us has the opportunity to seek and receive guidance, inspiration, I'll call it. And I'm not telling anybody how to think about that, but I know it's available.
Right.
What do you do? What, if you're willing to share, what do you do to create a circumstance in your heart or your life where you're open to receiving inspiration or ideas?
I purposely turn off everything, all the noise and all the internet and all the click here, you could, all that information. And I'm just in a very quiet place in my mind, in my heart. And that might be outside walking around. It might be in my prayer time or meditation, different ways that people can find that a quiet. And so it's when I'm in the most quiet that a little thought or a little idea will come. And I've learned to capture that and at least write it down and think about, and like, how could I take action on that thought now?
I thank you for sharing that. And I want to dig into that just a little bit more, because you've said three really important things. One is intentionally quiet the noise.
Yeah.
So whether it's TV, internet, people, whatever, intentionally quiet the noise, turn it all down.
Yeah.
And the second thing you mentioned is pay attention to the little thoughts and feelings, like be awake, be aware, pay attention to listen for those ideas, intuitions, inspirations, call them whatever you want, but pay attention. And the third thing you mentioned was then have the courage to take some action on that. It's good. It's right. There's a positive thing here. It's not just a fly in the jello of my brain. It's It's a real, it's a real thing, and it's there to help me. I
Yes.
agree with all three of those. Slow down, pay attention, and then take some action on that. Is that a skill that you think anyone can develop if they want to?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you've probably seen this too. It'd be fascinating to see what you've watched happen for people. But definitely, I feel stronger in that myself than I was in 2008 when I just said, well, I can't find any partners. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I find something that I want to do and I know I don't have the resources to do it on my own, I'm always like, all right, what team do I need? What people can help me with this? I read two books too, and that helped. One was Who Not How, and the other was 10x is easier than 2x. And both of those gave me a little mindset tweak, just a little bit, that I'm like, we could really make this really wonderful for a lot more people if I didn't insist on doing it all myself. And if I did find someone who knows what I don't know yet, because I know that I still don't know everything. And what I don't know that I don't know is my most expensive cost in our mind, in our everything we're trying to accomplish in life to get to that ultimate life that you teach people about. What
It's
we don't
funny.
know is very expensive.
It is
So,
very expensive. And I think of it this way. The idea for me that I have to do something means I have to know all those answers. And I
yeah,
view that as like supreme arrogance. Like, who the heck am I to think that I would know that instead of taking advantage of accumulated wisdom, mistakes, offered help, and maybe you pay for it and maybe you don't. And I don't think that even matters because if it cuts a year or 10 or longer off my learning curve and takes a year or 10 of suffering or struggle or anxiety out of my heart, it's like I don't even care.
right. I'll
What
pay
I
that then.
what I
I'm
have
ready
to
to
pay,
pay
pay it in a heartbeat.
it. Hmm.
Because it takes, it subtracts all that anxiety out of that. So what haven't I asked you about that you really want to make sure you teach, that you teach or share or give to the listeners?
Well, I'm really thankful for that question. The biggest thing is that one person can make a bigger impact than they think. I read a book by Andy Andrews called The Butterfly Effect. It's very short and a lot of pictures, which made sense to me. And I share it with my children because they can read it in 5 minutes. And it was about George Washington Carver. That was a little teeny baby. His parents, he was orphaned in the war. Someone found him in a burlap sack. And they took the time to make a difference for him. And they taught him and raised him as their own. And because of that, billions of people were fed from what George Washington Carver learned and was able to share with other people who then shared it with other people, right? Our life ripples out. The one conversation, one phone call, one 10-minute step forward, or a video that you watch, or a book, or a person you learn from, or something, can ripple out to have such a big legacy and an impact on other people. Like I don't have to take 30 years to pay that darn house mortgage off anymore because someone showed me a YouTube video about it 5 years ago. And whatever it is, you want your health to improve or your relationships or whatever. I think we underestimate the power of one person. It's that butterfly effect that billions of people were fed because someone was kind to that little baby in a sack and didn't forget him.
I love that, and thank you for sharing that thing because the truth is that each of us, each of the listeners, and you and me, we're all from the same place. We're divine beings. We were created with the mission. We were created with a purpose. Nobody's going to come and make you do anything, but nobody can keep you from it either.
Right.
And if you make up your mind to go create a meaning and purpose, and you choose to do it the way that suits you best, you can have a big impact. My goal this year has been to reach 300 million people with this message of purpose, prosperity, and joy. And the podcast and 21 books, and number 22 is nearly done. And, I've been on 700. All that stuff is just aimed at that goal because like you, I know that the yearning that we have to serve is divine. The good that we can do is limitless. And we have that opportunity to do that. And I really want to thank you today for sharing your love, your spirit, your encouragement, your smile, the brightness of hope that you bring. Thanks for sharing that with me today.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's amazing what we can do to help each other, and it's a good thing.
I love it, and it is. Now, as we get ready to be nearly done, I want you to tell people, again, how to find anything you want to share. Like if they want more Ann, if they want to find out more about you or your family personally, or about the tools that you've taught, about mortgages and real estate and et cetera, where do they need to go to find out whatever it is that they might want to know after listening to you?
Ann at lifegiverlegacy.com. Although the fastest is probably annsplan.com. Just give yourself that permission slip to try something, to look at it and see if it could help. And you'll know right on that phone call, that first phone call, you'll be like, okay, that's going to work for me. And by a year from now, this is what would be happening in my family because of it. I kind of like recipes. Just give me the ingredients. Let me know that the recipe is going to be ready for dinner and we're good to go. And because it was hard for me, the 20 years that I spent in the, I can't do it, I don't know, let's just give ourselves the permission slip to try it. And annsplan.com/Kellan. So they can find you and me.
Okay, well, thank you. annsplan.com, and the other one was Ann at
lifegiverlegacy.com. That's our business name, but
is that an email? Ann at lifegiverlegacy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So annsplan.com.
Yep.
And there's some videos to watch, and Ann at lifegiverlegacy.com.
Yep.
The opportunities that we don't take, the opportunity cost, the excuses we make before we even try about, but it won't, but
I can't find any partners for 10 years.
But, I think of Bugs Bunny, wabbit, right? But. Yeah, it's just not true.
It isn't.
Well, Ann, again, thank you. Thanks for being part of my show today, or our show together.
Thank you. It was a treasure for me. I appreciate that so much.
All of you, I want you to take the opportunity to listen to this. And I don't actually know the details of the plan or process that she shares, but I do know that there are many ways that both financially, I've got a friend of mine who teaches a investor school and a real estate school. And, so all of these things are there and they're possible and they're available. So if you're making up a story about why it can't work for you, that's going to be a big opportunity cost for you. So go check it out, because if you take action, even a little one, moving forward today, you will be a step closer to creating your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet